It started with a name. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, just a name I heard a little too often. At first, I didn't think much of it. He would mention her casually. She said this at work. She handled that situation really well. She stayed late again today. Normal conversations, work conversations, the kind you don't question. And I didn't. Why would I? There was no reason to. No tone, no hesitation, no sign that anything was wrong. Just normal. But then something changed. Not suddenly, not obviously, just slightly. The way he said her name, the way it came up more often, the way he seemed just a little more engaged when talking about her. It wasn't enough to call it out, but it was enough to notice. And once you notice something like that, it's hard to ignore. One evening, I asked about it. Casually, not accusing, just curious. "You talk about her a lot," I said lightly. He didn't react much, just shrugged. "She's just a coworker." Simple, direct, clear. And for a moment, that was enough. Because that's all it should have been. Just a coworker. I nodded. Okay. And the conversation moved on. But something stayed with me. Not doubt, just awareness. Because sometimes it's not what someone says, it's how easily they say it. Days passed, then weeks, and her name kept coming up. Not in a way that sounded wrong, just consistent. Too consistent. And slowly, that small awareness started turning into something else. A quiet question in the back of my mind. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just there. One night, I noticed something different. We were sitting together, the TV on like always. His phone buzzed. He picked it up, looked at it, and for a second, smiled. Not a big smile, not obvious, but real. Then he quickly locked his phone and placed it face down. That small action, it stayed with me, because it felt intentional. And intention always means something. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask, because I already knew what the answer would be. She's just a coworker. And I didn't feel like hearing that again. So I stayed quiet, but I paid attention, more than before. Not in a suspicious way, just observant. And once you start observing, patterns become clearer. The late messages, the quick replies, the slight distance when he was on his phone. It wasn't extreme, it wasn't obvious, but it was there. And the more I noticed it, the harder it became to ignore. One afternoon, I decided to step out, just to clear my head, get some air, maybe distract myself from overthinking. I didn't plan anything specific, just a walk, maybe coffee, something simple. The cafe wasn't far, a place I had been to before, comfortable, familiar. I walked in slowly, scanning the room for an empty table. And then, I saw him. For a second, I thought I was mistaken, but I wasn't. It was him. Sitting at a table near the window, and he wasn't alone. She was sitting across from him. The coworker. For a moment, everything around me went quiet. Not because the cafe was silent, but because my mind stopped processing everything else. All I could see was them. The way they were sitting, the way they were talking, the way he looked at her, relaxed, engaged, present. More present than I had seen him in a long time. I didn't move. I didn't approach them. I just stood there, for a second longer than I should have, watching. Not in shock, not in anger, just observing. Because sometimes, seeing something with your own eyes feels different than imagining it. More real, more final. I noticed the small things, the way they leaned slightly towards each other, the way the conversation flowed easily, the way he smiled, that same smile I had seen the night his phone lit up. It wasn't just friendly, it wasn't just casual, it was comfortable. Too comfortable. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not loudly, not painfully, just clearly. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Every small doubt, every moment I questioned, every time I told myself I was overthinking. It all led here, to this, to something I could no longer explain away. I took a slow breath and stepped back, not forward, because I didn't need to confront them. I didn't need to ask questions. I didn't need to hear explanations. I had already seen enough. Sometimes, what you see once is stronger than anything you could be told. I turned around quietly and walked out. They never saw me. He never knew I was there. But something had already changed, completely. And as I stepped outside, one thought stayed with me. She's just a coworker. The walk back felt quiet. Not heavy, not rushed, just still. I wasn't thinking about what to say. I wasn't planning a confrontation. I wasn't even trying to understand it anymore. Because I already did. Some things don't need explanation once you've seen them with your own eyes. I reached home and closed the door behind me. The same space, the same silence. But it didn't feel the same anymore. I placed my bag down and sat for a moment, just sitting there, letting everything settle. The image of them kept replaying in my mind. Not dramatically, not painfully, just clearly. The way he looked at her, the way he smiled, the way he seemed present. And that's when I realized something. It wasn't just about her. It was about what was missing with me. Because that version of him, I hadn't seen in a long time. Not with me. And that realization, it didn't break me. It grounded me. Because it showed me the truth without confusion. Hours passed. I didn't call him, didn't text, didn't ask where he was. Because I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't wondering. I wasn't trying to fill in gaps with assumptions. Everything I needed to know, I had already seen. When the door finally opened that evening, I didn't move right away. I just stayed where I was. Calm. Still. He walked in casually. "Hey," he said, like always, like nothing had changed. "Hey," I replied, my voice steady, neutral. He placed his keys down and looked at me for a second. Something in my tone must have felt different, because he paused slightly. "How was your day?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, I wasn't trying to read him. I wasn't searching for anything. I was just seeing him clearly. "It was fine," I said. Then I added, "I went out for a while." He nodded. "Nice." A simple response, unaware, or maybe assuming, but not knowing. Not yet. There was a small pause. Then I asked, "How was work?" He shrugged slightly. "Same as always." I nodded. "Busy?" "A little." He looked relaxed, normal, like the version of him I had known. But now, I could see the difference between this version and the one I saw earlier. And that difference said more than any explanation ever could. I stood up slowly, walked a few steps closer. Not aggressively, not confrontational, just present. "I went to that cafe near the corner today," I said calmly. His expression didn't change immediately. "Yeah," he replied. "I like that place." I nodded slightly. "Me too." A small pause. Then I added, "I saw you there." That's when everything shifted. His face changed, subtly, but clearly. That moment, where someone realizes they've been seen. Not caught, seen. There's a difference. "What do you mean?" he asked. But his voice wasn't as steady now. "I saw you," I repeated. "With her." Silence. No quick response, no immediate explanation, just silence. And that silence, it confirmed everything. Because if there was nothing to explain, there wouldn't be a pause. "There's nothing going on," he said finally. Of course, that was the first line. Not surprise, not apology, just denial. I nodded slowly. "I didn't say there was," I replied. And that was true. I hadn't. Because I didn't need to label it. I had already seen enough. "You're misunderstanding," he added. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was expected. That pattern again, turning clarity into confusion, turning what I saw into something I misunderstood. But this time, it didn't work. Because this time, I wasn't questioning myself. I wasn't doubting what I felt. I wasn't trying to make his version of things fit into what I had seen. I just trusted what I knew. "I'm not misunderstanding," I said calmly. "I'm just not ignoring it anymore." That stopped him, because there was no argument in that, no accusation, just truth. Looking back, I realized something. It wasn't just that moment at the cafe. It was everything before it. All the small signs, all the subtle changes, all the times I felt something shift, but told myself it was nothing. Until it wasn't. You can explain words. You can justify messages. But you can't explain presence. You can't fake the way someone looks at another person. And once you see that, there's no going back. "She's just a coworker," he said again. That line, the same one, the one that used to feel reassuring. Now it felt empty, because I had already seen what it looked like in reality, and it didn't match those words. I picked up my bag from the chair. He noticed immediately. "Where are you going?" he asked. I paused for a second, not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to say it clearly. "I'm not staying where I feel replaced," I said quietly. His expression shifted again. Confusion,